The town looked like a postcard you'd buy at a gas station on the edge of the highway. Neatly trimmed lawns, a water tower painted with the high school mascot, and a single main street where everyone waved even if they didn't know your name. This was the kind of American town where nothing ever seemed to happen, and that was exactly how people liked it. Parents felt safe letting their kids ride bikes until the streetlights came on. Doors were locked more out of habit than fear. On Friday nights, the glow from the football field lights could be seen from miles away, and the crowd always cheered like this was the center of the universe. But beneath that calm surface, something had been quietly rotting for years. It started with a disappearance that didn't feel alarming at first. When Daniel Harper didn't show up for his shift at the local hardware store, his boss assumed he'd overslept. Daniel was 28, reliable, and saving money to move to a bigger city someday. He lived alone in a small rental house on the edge of town, close enough to hear the freight trains passing at night. When he didn't answer his phone by noon, a coworker stopped by his place. His car was still in the driveway. The lights were off. Everything looked normal, almost too normal. By that evening, Daniel's sister called the police. The initial response was calm, almost casual. Officers walked through Daniel's house and found no signs of a struggle. His wallet sat on the kitchen counter. His phone charger was plugged in, but the phone itself was gone. His bed was neatly made. Neighbors said they hadn't seen or heard anything unusual. In a town like this, people didn't vanish. The police suggested Daniel may have left town voluntarily, maybe chasing that dream of something bigger. His sister didn't believe it, but without evidence, there was little they could do. Days turned into weeks, and the story slowly faded from the local gossip mill. Then, 6 months later, another person disappeared. This time it was a woman named Melissa Grant, a single mother who worked nights at a diner just off the highway. She was last seen leaving work around 2 a.m. Her car was found the next morning parked behind the diner, keys still inside. This time, the town felt a shift. 2 people going missing wasn't a coincidence anymore. Fear crept into conversations at the grocery store and after church on Sundays. Parents started walking their kids to school again. The police launched a larger investigation, bringing in state resources. They reviewed security footage from nearby businesses, but most cameras were outdated or not working at all. One grainy clip showed a dark pickup truck passing by the diner around the time Melissa disappeared, but the license plate was unreadable. Tips poured in, most of them useless. People reported suspicious neighbors, strange noises, half-remembered arguments from months earlier. Nothing solid emerged. What no one realized was that the truth was hiding in plain sight. The town had always trusted one another, and that trust had become a blind spot. There was a man named Robert Keller, a lifelong resident who owned a small property maintenance business. He fixed fences, mowed lawns, and helped elderly residents with repairs. Everyone knew Robert. He was quiet, polite, and always willing to lend a hand. His truck was a dark pickup, the kind you'd see everywhere in town. He had no criminal record, no obvious red flags. To most people, he was invisible. As the months passed, 2 more disappearances followed. Both victims had something in common. They were last seen late at night, near places Robert's company regularly serviced. Still, no one connected the dots. The town council held meetings about safety. Curfews were discussed. More streetlights were installed. The idea that the danger could be coming from someone they waved to every morning was too unsettling to accept. Then came the break that changed everything. A hiker, wandering through a wooded area just outside town, stumbled upon something half-buried near a dried creek bed. It was a shoe. When police arrived and began searching the area, they uncovered human remains. Dental records later confirmed the worst fear the town had been trying to ignore. The remains belonged to Daniel Harper. The discovery shattered the illusion of safety. Suddenly, this wasn't a missing persons case anymore. It was a homicide investigation. The woods were taped off, and forensic teams worked for days. They found evidence suggesting Daniel hadn't died there. His body had been moved. That meant someone local knew the area well enough to hide him, at least temporarily. As news spread, panic set in. People looked at each other differently now. Familiar faces felt strange. Longtime friendships carried an undercurrent of suspicion. The town that once prided itself on trust was now fractured by fear. And the worst part was that the real horror was still hidden, waiting for the moment it would finally come into the light. Investigators went back to the beginning, re-examining every disappearance with fresh eyes. They mapped out last known locations, routines, and timelines. Slowly, a pattern emerged. Each victim had crossed paths with someone offering help late at night. A ride, a repair, a favor that seemed harmless in a town built on kindness. That someone was always driving a dark pickup truck. When police questioned Robert Keller for the first time, he was cooperative and calm. He explained that he often worked odd hours and was frequently out at night responding to emergency calls from clients. He had an answer for every question, and nothing he said could be immediately disproven. His truck matched the description, but so did dozens of others in town. Still, investigators noticed something subtle. Robert knew details about the victims that hadn't been released publicly. Surveillance was set up quietly. Officers tracked Robert's movements, combed through his work records, and spoke again to people who knew him. An elderly woman mentioned that Robert insisted on handling repairs alone and never allowed clients into his workshop behind his property. Another neighbor recalled seeing strange lights there late at night. None of it was enough on its own, but together it painted a disturbing picture. The warrant came after a critical discovery. Soil samples taken from the creek bed where Daniel's remains were found matched soil on Robert's property. When police arrived to search his land, the town watched in disbelief. Patrol cars lined the street. Neighbors stood on porches, whispering, shaking their heads. This couldn't be happening. Not here. Not him. Behind Robert's workshop, investigators uncovered a concealed pit. Inside were personal items belonging to Melissa Grant and the two other missing victims. DNA evidence tied everything together. Faced with the overwhelming proof, Robert finally confessed. Over the course of several years, he had exploited the town's trust, offering help to people when they were most vulnerable. He chose victims who wouldn't immediately raise alarms and used his knowledge of the area to hide his crimes. The motive was as chilling as it was empty. Robert described a sense of control, a need to feel powerful in a life where he otherwise felt unseen. The quiet town that had ignored him had unknowingly given him the perfect cover. No one questioned him. No one suspected him. And that was exactly what allowed the brutality to continue. The trial drew national attention. Reporters flooded the town, broadcasting images of streets that once symbolized safety, now associated with horror. Families of the victims spoke about their loved ones, their voices breaking as they described lives cut short by someone they had trusted. Robert was convicted on multiple counts of murder and sentenced to life in prison without parole. Even after the verdict, the town struggled to heal. People locked their doors now. Children were warned not to talk to strangers, even ones they recognized. The hardware store closed early. The diner stopped its late-night shifts. The sense of innocence that once defined the place was gone forever. Today, if you drive through that town, it still looks peaceful. The lawns are still trimmed. The water tower still stands tall. But beneath that calm surface lies a lesson written in tragedy. Evil doesn't always arrive loudly. Sometimes, it blends in, wears a familiar face, and waits patiently behind a quiet smile. And in a town that believed nothing bad could ever happen there, the truth proved to be far more brutal than anyone could have imagined.